Live from Houston, Texas. Welcome, everyone, to today's episode of What Makes You Tick. I'm really excited you're here. Before we dive in, as usual, just a few quick housekeeping notes to make this a great experience for everyone. Today, I have an amazing guest and honored to catch up with this guy. But before we begin our conversation, there's a couple of reminders. First, this is an interactive live session, so please enter anything you can into the comment section and we'll see it. To ask a question, just drop it in the chat and we'll bring key insights to anything we can within this conversation. If you're not seeing this live, by the way, you can see it recorded, so please check us out. This will be a great conversation. We'll use the LinkedIn DM for any comments or any posting. If you've got some behind the scene coordination that we need to do, just feel free to drop the message in, especially if you have any tech questions. Now, LinkedIn occasionally will bump users off. If you get disconnected, just simply rejoin. We know many of you are listening while commuting or working, or at least we hope you are. So engage however you can. Even quiet listeners are the most important part of this community. Thanks again for being here. Now let's get started. My guest today is a gentleman that I met in junior high, when he was in junior high, not when I was in junior high. He was an amazing athlete, a great kid, and just an all-around pleasure to be around. It was my honor to coach him in high school in both football and baseball. From afar, it's been an amazing journey, or to watch him go through an amazing journey. After high school, he played Division I baseball at Rice University and had talent and desire to go pro. He, like me, lived and breathed the game of baseball. Fate, as we know, had a different plan for him. While in college, he suffered a shoulder injury that cut his dreams short. This, for him, was a life-changing experience. As a part of the rehab, he was introduced to the chiropractic care. Somewhere in this mess, and you know how I am with all the connect and the purpose, guess what he found? He found his purpose and became a chiropractor. Today, he owns and operates 2 chiropractic clinics, Sync Chiropractic and Rehab, where his team helps people recover, rebuild, and perform at their best. From athletes to injured victims, their focus is on healing that will last. Please welcome to What Makes You Tick, Dr. Charlie Warren. That's still so weird. Dr. Charlie Warren. How are you, Dr. Charlie Warren?
Pretty good, Coach. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
No, it's a pleasure. Look, I know you. Just our audience, introduce yourself. Tell them a little bit of your story. How did you get here, and what makes you tick?
Yep. My name is Dr. Charles Warren. Well, before this, I always went by Charlie, but the world now have to go a little bit more professional, go by Charles, my real name. But baseball was always my calling. Loved sports. I was a dual sport athlete. Well, I played all sorts of sports, track and field, basketball when I was younger, but mainly football and baseball. Thought I could potentially play football in college, got offers. So had a bunch of offers from a little bit of the Ivy Leagues. So could have played there, but baseball was my main calling. So I loved the sport so much that going into my senior year of high school, as you know, just went straight baseball. We won that 5A state championship that year after what felt like a lot of road bumps and lots of stories that we could literally just talk about for just this. But went to college, got a great education at Rice University, basically double majored, didn't mean to. I did kinesiology, sports medicine as my main major because I knew I wanted to do something with the medical field. But got kind of dragged into my second major. I majored in religion. And
I didn't know that.
The reason I did that was I took so many religion classes because they were so interesting. But the head of the department was like, hey, do you want a double major? We'll give you a couple more classes and we'll sign that signature to give you the degree as well. So did that, played baseball. Unfortunately, just like you said, hurt this shoulder of mine. But then came about my second love, basically my career that I'm doing now. A chiropractor saved me from having to have surgery. Learned a lot about the medical field because I wanted to be an orthopedic surgeon, but it just didn't feel right because an orthopedic surgeon told me without that surgery, I would never be the same. chiropractor had a couple treatments with me, basically fixed it up to where went in actually after college, won 5 championships in a men's adult baseball league to where we were winning every single year. So shoulder feels great, but now I am doing what I love. I get to treat athletes, get to treat a lot of personal injury victims that are needing my help. And I now am so lucky to have 2 practices to actually do what I need to do. My goal is now to have 10 eventually. So hopefully I can get to that point.
Well, look, I mean, it's amazing to watch you grow up, and especially with that, the classes that you've taken, and we were talking beforehand, and we know that it dawned on me as we're talking just now.
Yeah,
you and I had that conversation multiple times about you playing football or baseball, and when you wanted to go baseball only.
Yeah.
I remember, like, as I was like, oh crap, does it feel so long ago?
Yes,
but like, this show is basically built off of trust and clarity, and what makes you tick stands for that. And I'm listening to that, and you can't help but in what you do and who you understand and who you're around, trust is huge. Clarity is, and let's be honest, but I know you, I think you're awesome, and I think you're great.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people out there that think chiropractic, whatever. You know what I mean?
Yep.
How can they trust that? How would you tell somebody to trust that?
So in anything we do in life, trust is a big factor. We even have Google reviews that basically are saying, hey, come to this place over that place.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Just like you said, what can we do to actually have people trust in the process of what we're doing is come see me. Let me introduce you to what chiropractic is all about. Let me describe my schooling, describe what I've learned, describe what I believe is going to help your body get better, and you will actually see the results. So just like you said, trust is a big process in any kind of medical field. You have to trust your doctor to make the decisions for you, because you don't know the decisions. You don't know what to do or what's the greatest thing for your body at the time, because you're in pain. Yeah. So trusting in someone that knows what they're doing and has confidence in what I'm doing is that I believe I can fix as many people as possible. I know I don't have the capability to fix everybody, but you have to have the trust in me to send you to the next person if I can't fix you. God,
look, this is why I love this. And Charlie and I were talking. I drove up from Baton Rouge this morning back to Houston, and one of the things that I was really thinking about is trust and how important it is to trust. Mm-hmm. And being an athlete, being a doctor, you have to absolutely trust what you're doing. So if I'm a coach, I put you out in center field. I got to trust you're going to do the job.
Yep. And we got to trust you as the coach to put everybody in the right position.
Yeah. And that's a huge piece in everything that we do in the big part of our life. Yeah. And it creates to lead in, it creates the clarity, because if you trust somebody, mm-hmm. And they break that trust, all it does is clear up who that person is. It has nothing personal to do, and people get personal. So like, as a doctor of chiropractic, if you're not, maybe something we don't know, go see and understand and how that works.
Yeah. That's what I love about what I do. I get to educate everybody of what chiropractic should be and what it really is. Unfortunately, a lot of the stuff that I do, there's a lot of misconception from medical doctors versus PTs versus chiropractic. I wish we could all work together, because if we all work together, everybody would get better a lot quicker, in my opinion. So it's just like you said, if we all had the trust to believe in each other, it'd be a lot easier in this world.
Oh, gosh. No, and that's what I'm hoping to build, is something that we can do. Look, we could sit here and talk about this, because what you just said, I would want to go deeper. But, one of the things that, and us being athletes, for me, I always talk about books. I didn't understand the power of books until I was much older, really after I kind of went through divorce, because we were talking earlier, a lot of stuff we did in high school was built around books. It was built on mindset and building that up. Mm-hmm. For me, I utilize it to run and to kind of clear my mind, and I'm building my mind as I'm building my endurance. Yeah. Hopefully I can live another 20 years, maybe 30 years, maybe 40.
You definitely can.
Yeah. And that's what I want to do. For me, Tim Grover and
Right.
his book on winning. Have you ever have you ever read it?
I've never read that book. No, sir.
No.
So I
So
probably have to.
it was really it was kind of a growth book, and it was about facing reality and how we face reality.
Okay.
But he shared it through stories of athletes, which is perfect and fitting for today.
Yeah.
And I can't remember. I wonder if he was a trainer. I think he was a person. You should read that book.
Okay. Yeah.
There were two lessons that I remember coming out of that book. And one, it's kind of fitting for you, is that we always face tough battles. But what it helps us to do is create a perspective on what we see. In other words, turn around. If I'm looking at something from the front, it looks completely different from the back, and you see things in a different manner.
Mhm.
And how you would go through that experience. And the other one, as a big part of this show, which is purpose and why, he actually drives home why you win.
Yeah.
And fear is always something that we're going to face, but you have to be able to face it.
Yeah.
Where the why comes in is whenever you're facing something that's fearful or something you're afraid of, if you're connected to your purpose, you understand, one, why you're there, but two, you start asking the question of, what am I supposed to get out of this? What am I supposed to learn? What are you teaching me? Instead of going, why is it me? You know what I mean? I mean, I've coached kids like that, been around people, dated people like that, had people work on my team, sales team, or any of my business teams that have been teaching teams. I'm like, it's not personal, you know?
Nope.
So those things are huge. Look, I'm talking. Give me a book or a couple of books that you like.
Well, now that I'm doing my own business, it's all business stuff. So just like you said, learning from other people that have experienced it is something you have to experience yourself. Like you have to put yourself in that environment to learn. So with me, I know I do not know everything about business. So I'm trying to read and figure everything out as I go. And until I actually do it, you won't know how to actually fit into that scenario. So like there's two business like men that I really like to kind of listen to both of them. So Dave Ramsey, that's a really big one. His Total Money Makeover. It's all about getting out of debt. So that's where I came from. My whole family was all about saving money, paying off your credit cards.
Yeah.
Do not be in debt, because with debt causes, like you said, fear.
Yes.
Know where you're going to go or what you're going to do next, because you don't even know if you're going to have a roof over your head.
Right.
The other person, Robert Kiyosaki, is the total opposite that I've read. His Rich Dad, Poor Dad basically says, get into debt. Use the money the bank that will offer it, or you the most money, use that money to make more money.
Yeah.
You can be in so much debt that it doesn't matter, because your assets offset that debt, to where a bank will be like, hey, I'll give you $3 million next week because your assets are worth $3 million.
Yeah.
So, but that also causes people to be in fear.
Yeah.
To where
risk. I mean, you're still taking a risk.
Yep, you're taking a big risk. So what I've learned with business and just owning a clinic is you got to kind of live with fear. You got to believe in what you're doing.
Yeah.
That fear is in the back of your mind, but just keep pushing forward.
Yeah.
So those are two books that I would definitely recommend if you're wanting to start a business. Maybe you don't know what you're doing with your own money, because it kind of clarifies, hey, like you can either do it this way or that way. I don't know who's right out of the two guys that I read, but it seems like they're doing pretty well.
No. Okay. So do you find yourself as you lean one way or the other, or do you utilize both techniques?
Utilize both. So
Same here.
What I would say is that some debt is good debt, some debt is bad debt, but either way, you got to just keep pushing forward.
Yeah. No, I get that. Yeah. Let's do a quick reset, and then we'll get to our next portion. Look, today is my 7th podcast. What Makes You Tick is an authentic, relaxed, purposeful conversation on trust, clarity, and traction. Why? To incorporate your purpose into what you do, the impact that your life has on others. How do we do this? By sharing business and personal stories to help build culture of trust, creating clear, impactful messages as a leader with insights on how you help to build traction within your life or within your business. Today, we're having a conversation with Dr. Charlie Warren. I keep saying that doctor because it's still funny. I mean, I have this remember you as a kid, and it's the same personality, except now you've got doctor previous.
Just a few little letters in front of the name now.
Okay, so for me, like, people really make a big impact in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, people ask, like, my dad's made a big impression. Absolutely. He's done some things in his life that I've learned from that were negative, and some that advice that he's given me that was positive. The funny thing, as a dad, I'm finding that same thing, but I don't know if I can, I always think about this, there's so many people that have been in my life. Mm-hmm. Is there anybody in your life or an event that happened in your life that really opened your mind and tested any of your trust and clarity?
Yeah. So definitely when I went to college, my head coach, Wayne Graham, again, I have to say it, Wayne Graham, legend in baseball. He hated the LSU Tigers.
I love both programs. They were both so well respected, and they were two different types of coaches, but they were well respected. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, you're good. Yeah, Wayne Graham kind of brought a challenge in my life when I was at Rice University. He made the sport a little bit more of a job to me. Mm-hmm. So it was just his coaching style. Nothing wrong with it. He was hard-headed, and he wanted to win, just like you said.
Yeah.
But came into a great program. I learned a lot. Started as a freshman in center field, and that's not really well known under Wayne Graham to be a freshman and starting.
Right. I remember that.
Yeah, but yeah, I learned a lot from him. Basically, he was mean, but it made you have thick skin. So
he was tough, I'm sure. I mean, we met Wayne and a lot of the Houston coaches and just the coaches being here. He was an old school guy for sure.
Yeah, old school, wanted to win, would do it at all costs, would play small ball, not like normal programs, would literally try to get 110% out of you every single game. Whether it was you didn't believe in it, he was going to get it out of you. You could be in the worst position of the season, meaning you lost 10 games in a row.
Yeah.
And he somehow knew to bring out everybody's 110% that next couple of games to where we would make a regional.
Yeah.
To the regional red hot, to where you'd be like, what the heck just happened?
What did he do? Do you know do you know his secret?
I had no idea what his secret was. When I was there, we should have won 4 years of Conference USA championship. We lost one my junior year. We were at Southern Miss, and we lost to the game at play at the plate. Literally, the last out of the game was at home. But the funny thing is, he was like, oh, you guys aren't going to make a regional. And we're like, we just literally won the conference out in the season. Just didn't win it during the championship game. And he was like, you're not going to make a regional. We're like, we have to.
Yeah.
So, but he was just getting us red hot, ready to go. But unfortunately, every time I was there, we just kind of, unfortunately, did not make it past that regional championship. We would always get there.
Right. So, and we were talking like, I had Skip Berkman, who I grew up watching. Now, I was not nearly as good of a player to be able to play for him, although I did have dreams. And I remember before Skip got there, my dad, I was talking to my dad, huge. We went to LSU football games all the time. And I asked him if LSU had a baseball team. Mm-hmm. This was when I was younger. So when Skip got there, it became different. And we, before I went into coaching, I had the privilege of actually going to talk to him and sit down with him. And I knew who he was. He knew who I was. I was at his camps. We'd had conversations. He knew who my parents were. But it's like he was so accommodating. Mm-hmm. He was the ultimate motivator. Yeah. But he would tell you straight up, like, just matter of factly, yeah, you suck. But he would do it in such a way you go, oh, okay, then I can work at that, huh? Yeah. And it's amazing how that athlete in us creates so many different like negative moments that like that's kind of a negative, but it creates a positive change in our lives.
Yeah.
I know there's, for me, if anybody watches this or hears it or sees anything, for me, it was like divorce. That was one of those things that just I could also put in there, not making the Nickel State. I tried at Nickel State, tried to walk on, didn't make it. It ended up going, and I met so many different people throughout that path. Yeah. Is there anything that sticks out in your mind that's like negative that helped to challenge and change your life and create a positive life change besides your shoulder injury? Or was that the one?
So I would say that is the one. As you know, Coach, every athlete has their first death, and it's losing the sport they love. Basically, yes. You have to basically say, oh, well, I got to go into the real world. I can't play a kid sport anymore.
Right.
So when I hurt my shoulder, I was like, what do I do with my life? I was so used to having the schedule from 8 a.m. till 6 at night. You go to school, you work out, go to practice, or you play a game, and you had a routine that you were so used to.
Yeah.
And then you go into the real world and you're like, well, what do I do with my life?
Right.
So when I hurt my shoulder, I really didn't know what I was going to do, like with my career. I was like,
how long was that? Like when you heard it, how long did you go through that period? Was it like a month? Was it like a semester? How long was that?
So that period of when I hurt my shoulder and knew I was done after college was probably about a year.
Oh, wow.
I was trying to figure out what kind of job I would get. I got a job as a medical assistant for an ENT specialist. Yeah. And I was just trying to make some money. I learned a lot from that ENT specialist to the point where he's like, go to medical school, like come join my practice. And I was like, I don't want to be an ENT. Yeah. But my parents, as well as my fiance, Shayla, basically brought me back to my roots of my shoulder injury. It was like, well, a chiropractor saved your shoulder from having to do surgery, and you actually continued playing baseball in college because of it.
Right.
Fortunately, that injury cost you your pro career. So I was like, I didn't think about that. Learned about chiropractic school, saw the university in Pasadena called Texas Chiropractic College. And even my mom was in shock of how very technically advanced the school was. She was like, oh, a chiropractor, who wants to be a chiropractor? But then we went to the cadaver lab at this school, met the anatomy professor, and she was like blown away. And I was blown away. I was like, oh my gosh, you guys have a cadaver lab? I thought this was chiropractic. I thought we'd just crack bones. And basically that drew me into what I'm doing today. So yes, my shoulder injury was a negative, but it turned into one of the best positive results I could ask for. Now I'm doing what I love, and I get to go back to what I kind of did before. I get to treat athletes.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I get to live vicariously through them. So it's pretty
cool. And you get to share your stories with them also.
Yep.
And, show them, hey, look, man, I can play softball now.
Yeah.
Couldn't then.
Yeah.
You can go, look, you saw the play by Acuna, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can go, look, that was me back in the day.
I wish I was as good as him.
Dude, okay, I'm gonna go off the side here. That was an amazing throw, though. You saw that, right?
Yeah, it was crazy. I couldn't believe it. He made it so nonchalantly.
He just spun and threw.
Mm-hmm.
That's
right on target.
I've both been around baseball. That's not supposed to happen.
Nope. But that's why they're in the pros. So,
gosh, dude, that was so. If I wanted to be Acuna, what would you? And that was my dream. So what would you tell me? How would you inspire me to get there?
It's all about trusting the process, working hard. The biggest person that I always hear about is Alex Bregman.
Yeah.
LSU.
Yeah.
Some of the stories I heard, it made him look like, and you even know Ron Eastman talking about the players at the Woodlands. always saying, oh, they would say after practice, or they were doing these superhuman like things like jumping on top of a fence, like from the bottom to the top.
Yeah.
Like these people just are very athletic, and they know how to get the best out of their abilities, and they're going to work their butt off to get to it.
Yeah.
So
do you remember? Of course, LSU fan. I've said it a couple times, but you have to admit, 2019 was a great year for LSU football.
Mm-hmm.
Like that Burrow, Chase, Jefferson, amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, you look back at some of this, they arguably would be one of the best football teams ever.
Yep.
So, you know how many balls that Chase and Jefferson caught but the summer before in their off time?
I have no idea.
They
Probably
would catch thousands, 2,000, thousands a week in their
Mhm.
off time from the jugs gun.
Yeah.
They'd set up and do different jugs, because we've done the jugs drills
Mhm.
where you'd catch. And I was hearing them talk about that today, and I'm thinking to myself, holy crap. Those are things that, like, if you want to dream,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter if you get there or not, but there's so many different things that you have to do to get there.
Yep.
Like, like, what was one of the things that you put in that helped you to get there?
It's repetition. It's just like what I'm doing right now. When I first started this clinic, I worked 9 months straight, no days off.
Yeah.
So I was working at another clinic. Basically, that was my paycheck for the month on the weekends. And I was busting my butt, not taking any single penny from this business and putting it right back into it. Just like them, when I was playing sports, repetition, hitting off the tee every single day, catching fly balls with my outfield coach every single day. It sounded boring. If you were watching us, you're like, you're doing the same thing over and over and over. But sometimes the most boring things make you the most successful. So that's what they did. That's why that football team was so good. Like so
the amount of stuff that they did. And, we've got several guys that we've coached along the way that are in the pros, like Paul Goldschmidt is one of the biggest ones right now. Jamison Talion pitching for the Cubs.
Yeah.
And it's amazing to see the time that they put in. And you saw that as young kids.
Yeah.
Paul's one of my favorite. Paul was, he was what we call the Golden Lion, because he was a running back in junior high back before, which is now the 9th grade campus, but he was a running back. Yeah. And he would get up there and he would run. He wasn't outstanding, but he was the guy. It was a B team, it was a second tier team. Give him the ball and he'd do whatever he wanted. Yeah. And then as you watch him grow, it wasn't that he was the best athlete, but he had two things. He was determined and would work hard. That was good. But his mindset was amazing. Like, it was calm. He might be nervous on the inside, but from the outside, you'd never know.
Yeah, you wouldn't. That's what makes them the best at what they are. They go into a situation and they're like, I want to be that guy. I want to be the man of that situation.
Yeah. And they're persistent. So it's a goal that's set, and he's persistent in, I want to get there. Yep. Same as you. I want to get there. Like, are there times where you see obstacles all the time, or you did, your shoulder injury.
Yeah.
So anything in your personal life or business that you've had a giant obstacle that you had to overcome, but being persistent to get over that was one of the things that helped you.
Yeah. I see it all the time in business, especially having employees. So a lot of the time it's a problem that you think is the most like drawn out, or most like, you're like, what do I do?
Yeah.
And just like we've always talked about in sports, it's teamwork, figuring out the solution one step at a time, but being consistent about it. You don't want to make it so dramatic that you can't fix it. Because if you're like, I know in baseball, we always talked about this at Rice, is living in chaos. You want to create a chaos event for the other team.
Yeah.
Where they didn't know what to do. So just in life, like, if you have chaos, you're not going to be consistent. You're not going to get to the point where you're like, oh, like you said with Paul Goldschmidt, calm, collected, but you know the drive and you know the route to get to. So when it comes to obstacles, what I would say is, like you said, being consistent and just moving forward one step at a time.
Yeah.
You'll figure it out, whether it takes an hour or a couple days, or maybe a year from now. You'll figure it out at one point, but there is that possibility of getting there. So that's
so is there a time where you were just, you saw that goal and you were just persistent that you were going to get there?
Yep. So just like I said, being in this business, working so hard, working multiple days in a row, I thought it was never going to get here. But I know there's a light at the end of the tunnel, just like those sayings. Each day gets easier. Each day gets better. Just like me getting that phone call from you saying, "Hey, do you want to be on a podcast?" I was like, heck yeah, I want to get on a podcast. Like even my marketing manager's like, "Hey, you need to do podcasts. That's great advertisement." Because it kind of shows my personality, but also it's great kind of for the business. But that's why I was so excited to get on here and talk with you, Coach.
No, it's a pleasure for sure. I know we're getting close to being almost out of time because we could talk. So just one of the last resets. Thank you guys for listening to this 7th podcast. What makes you tick? Charlie and I can call you Charlie, right? Or do I need to call you Doctor?
No.
Dr. Charles and myself are having an authentic, purposeful conversation about trust, clarity, and traction, how impactful it is in our life. I have a question I want to go back to in a minute. If you have any questions or comments, we'd love your engagement. Just drop them in the DMs. Charlie, so far, what is your takeaway?
About
this discussion, anything that you get?
I love talking about just normal life. Like you said, trust and clarity. A lot of people don't know what to do, where to go.
Yeah.
Or even just, like you said, reading books.
Yeah.
Learning something every day is probably the best thing for everyone, in my opinion. I learn something new every day, whether it's from my staff, whether it's from a book, whether it's from a podcast, to where I would say learn as much as you can, because if you do that, you'll be successful. But without learning, you won't know what to do.
Yeah.
There's situations where you might think it's the most horrible situation, but you won't make a mistake the next time because you've learned from it. So what I would say from all of this is it's making me just think like I have a pretty good life. So
no, and it's crazy how you get those lessons. So, and I've said this before on this show. Did I tell you that my son started his own business?
No, I did not know that.
At 18, he just turned 19.
There you go.
18, he started his own business. He came to me, said, "Dad, I want to quit my job." I was like, "Okay, that's fine, but you need another job." 2 weeks later, he quit. I went, "Dude, what are you gonna do?" He goes, "I don't know." Typical. You know what I'm talking about. Yeah. And so he just a couple of weeks later decided, I'm going to start a pressure washing business, and now it's turned into house washing over just a couple of months. Yeah. But he relies on, this is the funny part, that us older people are learning, but you younger people know he relies on ChatGPT and all these other AI programs. It actually helps him, but I'm impressed with what he's doing and how he's going through it.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is, so I left my company at Gordon Foods to start another business with a couple of partners. The business plan was great. Everything was great. The idea was great. I could have done a little bit better on the execution on the business development side and the sales, but from everything we've done, we grew a following. Mm-hmm. But for whatever reason, it didn't fit the audience we were trying to, so it did not work out.
Yeah, I got you.
But from all of that I've gone through since, understanding what the business was, building the business, having a business that did not work out, having to find another job, not finding a job, trying to find a job, having to find just scrap up, all of that. Like now that my son's building his business, which I would have never guessed, because of all the stuff that I had to go through and to see, I can help him build his. Like I'm sitting there today. He calls me, and I'm driving. I go, I said, what's your question? He asked me a question. I won't say it out loud, but it was something, and I'm listening to everything he's telling me, and I spit out this answer of what's coming out and how to guide him through it and asking him some questions through it.
Yeah.
And then in the middle of it, I go, dang, that's actually pretty good. Where'd that come from? You know what I mean?
Yep.
You ever do that? You ever sit there and you go, man, I had this experience once and it just taught me everything. And then you're talking to somebody and that comes up and you're showing the lesson you learned. Have you ever had anything happen like that?
Yes, I see it from both sides. My father does it to me all the time. He's like, your problems are minuscule. Like, and it's because he's already lived through that experience. He's like, you have nothing to worry about. Stop fretting over something that you have no control over. But then like I do the same thing. Like I talk to friends or family and they're like asking me for advice. And I'm like, wow, I'm actually the one giving the advice now. Like, because I've experienced, but they have not. But yeah, hopefully like what I'm doing as well as what you're telling your son is just great advice that we learn from and just move forward with it.
Right. Now, okay. So you mentioned your fiance earlier. Is there anything, how can I put this? What about trust and clarity with her? How important is that in our personal lives?
Very, very important. So she trusted me to know when and where to draw the line when it comes to business.
Yeah.
She's like, you're always working.
Yeah.
So where I bring it home and I'm working till midnight and she's like, why are you still working? But I say the same thing to her. She works in a hard industry. She's a lawyer.
Yeah.
I'm like, why are you still working? But the thing is, it's not her own business.
Right.
So, trust and clarity is a really big thing in a relationship. So basically I have to explain to her what I'm going to do because we're a team. If we're not telling each other what we're doing, how we're going to do this in our life, there is no trust. So I explained to her like, hey, I'm starting a business. And she's like, really? That's really going to be challenging. And I was like, yeah, but I believe in myself. And she's like, okay, well, I believe in you too. Good luck. And so every now and then she's like my cheerleader because she was a cheerleader at Rice University. But sometimes she's my wisdom speaker, basically like, hey, you got this. Like, stop fretting. Like, just keep doing it just like you did in sports. Just repetition, repetition, repetition. So where, yeah, trust and clarity is a big, big thing when it comes to relationship, to where if you don't have that trust with that partner is going to basically say adios.
Yeah.
But no, I really appreciate Shayla and all she's done for me.
And no, look, I suck at relationships, so I'm asking you for advice here. I'm asking, this is my personal, the audience can learn by our conversation. So I'm going to ask, how long did it take to actually get to, because nowadays everything is in front of you. You see it on social media. Like I'm sitting with my parents who are, up there in age, and they're sitting there watching the 10 o'clock news. I stopped watching the 10 o'clock news a long time ago, just because it's negative. And I'm sitting there, and it's so negative, and the stuff that you feel coming out of it, but yet they're sitting there and they've been married. God, man, when did they get married? Before I was born. Yeah. So they've been married for a long, much older than I am. Yeah. 60 something years, I believe. And it's crazy. Like, how did it start? Like, how long did it take you before you got to that trust piece?
Well, we've been dating for 8 years. So she's been a fiance of mine for 1 year. But trust I think it's going it's flowing as we go. So there's trust in everything, whether I'm doing the right thing for her or.
Well, let me rephrase. Okay, so the first time that here's where I'm curious, because I'm always from the first time that y'all, I guess, met and talked until you realized, hey, I can trust her.
Yes, sir.
What range do you think that was? How long did that take?
Well, she was my best friend before we started dating, so kind of that trust was already there.
Yeah,
it was the love part that was a little bit later. So that's a little bit different than most people's relationships, to where like I've always trusted her.
Yeah.
She's my best friend. I can tell her silly stuff. I can act myself. I can be goofy. But then I could also be serious with her. So the trust has always been there. It just depends on the person, I believe, that you have to have the person trusting in what you believe in and you trust what they believe in. And that's when the relationship really starts.
Yeah.
I would say probably with her, probably a couple months when we first met, when I was a freshman at Rice, to where she was asking me for advice on statistics homework.
Yeah.
And she had to trust me with my answers, right?
Right.
So I think the trust came pretty quick with me and Shayla, but the trust is growing and growing and growing. It
never stops.
Yep, never stops.
Even if it does, even though one of my big things lately is, even if it does, like I think we talked about this before, if you trust somebody and they break your trust, it's not, it doesn't mean that they're a bad person or anything, but it does add clarity. Same thing if you trust them and they do what they're supposed to, it adds clarity to a situation. It's not personal. Same thing in business. It's not personal.
Nope. Yep. I see it all the time in business.
Yeah, you have to, but you still have to trust people and go, okay, I know who you are. See ya. Or I know who you are. Let's learn more.
Yeah.
What about, like, one of my big things, because we're getting close to the end here. One of my big things is always youth. I had I was very fortunate to watch you grow up from a young age. Whether you trusted me and understood my clarity, I don't know. That's another conversation. But what would you, based on everything that you learned, what would be some advice you would give to a younger person?
Well, I believe just listening to people who have the experience above you, like the coaches had experience with other players.
Yeah.
But also they knew how to run a winning team. Like you as a player, you have to trust the process because they knew how to do it already.
Yeah.
Like you're dumb and young and you're like, oh, I just want to be the best that I can be. And you're kind of naive at the time. Like if I could tell my younger self what I know now, I would have been a lot better.
Yeah.
But without the coaches and the people around my life, like without that trust of, hey, like this is what you should be doing versus this is what you should not be doing. That was a big thing to my success. I bought into what people told me and kind of stuck to that kind of as my ethical code. Like, believe in people, believe in what they say, because they're not giving you bad advice. Some people might be giving you bad advice, but
it's a matter of perspective. It's where they're coming from. It allows you to look at things that you might not be able to see from a different direction, whether you agree with them or not. You have to trust what you're getting back, for sure.
Yeah. So just like you said, believing it would be a big factor. One thing I remember with the Woodlands baseball team is Ron Eastman made us all get a picture of Dell Diamond. And he was like, put it right behind your bathroom to where every time you're going number one and number two, you're looking right at it. And this is our goal for this season.
Yeah.
To where I was like, all right, I'm going to get some duct tape and put it right there. I believe in what we're doing. So like you said, trusting the process, the clarity behind it is one of the biggest things to where I would say came to not only my success in life, but also the success that you saw in our high school team.
Yes. And what did our high school team do?
Oh, we won that state championship.
That's your high school team. I was present.
Hey, you're part of that team. Without the coaches, we don't have the team. You guys knew how to coach and you were scouting other teams for us. So,
right. Yeah.
So
I miss those days. I do. I don't, but okay. So let's go off. We're almost done. We're but 1 minute and we're still going to run past time.
Yep.
But I want to know, use that same piece. What would you tell somebody on a relationship? Just how would you incorporate trust, clarity, and traction as part of, now remember, you're telling somebody, I'll tell you what, you're telling yourself, your younger self, you get a chance to go back in time. You're Marty McFly, you're going back in time. What would you say?
So what I would tell myself is stop fretting over silly stuff, like trust and believe in what other people are saying, even though you think it's the most negative kind of aspect in your life, where a coach is yelling at you because you made an error. That's not the biggest deal in the world. Like, have a little bit thicker skin because they're just trying to help you out. Also, I would tell myself to trust in the process a little bit more. Like, I actually believe.
What about girls? I want to know about girls. We've already talked about it. I want to know about girls. What would you tell yourself about girls?
So girls, I would say you got to pick the right partner and trust that you picked the right partner. There's like you said, social media is a big thing. I think there's a big negative connotation that relationships won't work out.
Right.
And
there's all this temptation that's there when you're in a good relationship.
Yep. And I think that trust is a big factor now, that there is that temptation online, whether it's you see other people in relationships that are very negative versus very great.
Yes.
You got to see both aspects, that, hey, this might be great for your relationship, or this might be really bad for your relationship. Don't kind of judge yourself that you're doing the wrong thing. You might be actually doing the perfect thing. And but with relationships, trust and clarity and just making the right judgment at the time is probably your best bet. Just talking with the people, listening, being your normal self, just be you.
Did you have, I'm sitting here, and as you're talking, it made me think of something. I know for me, when I was younger, the one thing I had the biggest trouble with trust was myself.
Yep.
Some of the biggest mistakes I've made or the biggest obstacles I've overcome were because I didn't trust my gut.
Yeah.
Even in relationships, it doesn't matter. My business, my relationship, everything.
Yeah.
When I trusted my gut, it worked out. When I didn't trust my gut because my mind was telling me something different, it didn't work out.
Yeah.
It's funny how that works.
Mm-hmm.
Good luck. We're out of time, Charlie. Audience, anybody out there, please make sure you connect with Charlie. Follow the show. Subscribe to my What Makes You Tick or Tick Pulse newsletter on LinkedIn. Charlie, please share, or we'll share with your LinkedIn. Can people find you on LinkedIn?
Yep. You can find me at LinkedIn, or you can go to syncchiropractic.com and schedule an appointment.
How do you spell sync?
SYNC. So
SYNC.
Sync. Yep. Let's get you back in sync.
Exactly. Yep. So, Charlie, thank you for being my guest on What Makes You Tick.
Well, appreciate it, Coach. I had a blast. Feel free to have me anytime.
Yeah, I'm still laughing. I love the coach. It's been so long.
That's how I am. Saying coach. Anybody that was my coach, your coach.
No, I love that. That's awesome. Look, let's go out and make an impact on the lives and the communities through trust, clarity, and traction.
Yes, sir.
One of my sayings is, let's make sure we be transitional over being transactional. Hey, you can find me on LinkedIn and stay connected for future episodes and deeper conversations. Charlie, as expected, it was amazing.
Yep, it was a pleasure.
You can find my friend. Make sure we get connected and have a great time. Join me next week when I'll have a conversation with Jalen Raymer, owner of Planet Cowboy, and a fantastic person. You guys go and have a fantastic week. See ya.
See you later.